Live from our hurricane headquarters with real-time analysis from some of the nation's top meteorologists. This is Tracking the Tropics, powered by Bose Electric.
Breaking news here on Tracking the Tropics. A big shift south in the NHC's 5 o'clock advisory with a forecast cone now going through Manatee and Sarasota counties. Following the spaghetti models that we told you about in the last hour, we now have a track shift that is noteworthy enough for us to break down on stream. We're going to discuss what it means for the Tampa Bay area here from the Stream Center. Welcome in to Tracking the Tropics once again for the 5 o'clock update. JB here with you alongside meteorologist Eric Stone. Right now, Hurricane Milton, a Category 5 hurricane, so a rebound in strength has continued, and now, of course, we have a new track. Eric, I'm going to send you right over to the wall to break this down because this is exactly what you were talking about in the 4 o'clock hour.
I tell you, when the latest 18Z run came in of the models, they were much further south. We showed you that just a little while ago, less than an hour ago. And now you see that shift south with a cone. And I mean, this is a huge shift south. This is a good 20 miles or maybe 25 miles to the south, right? And again, it's huge here in Tampa Bay because if this track winds up being north of us, that's when we get all that storm surge. And I've been asking around, we're estimating 250,000 homes would be impacted with severe flood damage if the 10 to 15 foot storm surge went through Tampa Bay itself. But with this track being farther to the south, those 250,000+ homes just might be spared because the water would be pushed out of Tampa Bay. Now I'm starting to get a little more concerned for Southwest Florida because if this track shifted so far south over the last 6 hours, if the trend continues to push this to the south, I don't want to say another Ian, but I do want to say the possibility of extreme storm surge in Charlotte Harbor, Charlotte County, as well as Boca Grande down towards Sanibel, Pine Island, Fort Myers Beach, and Lee County. Right after they rebuilt 2 years ago. Hate to see this, but right now this is trending in the southern direction. And again, we'll take a closer look. Remember, this track was right here, right around Anna Maria Island. It really shifted to the south. This is the Sarasota County border with Manatee County. SRQ, that Sarasota Airport, is located right in this general area. Now, instead of this being over Anna Maria Island, this is all the way down into northern Sarasota County, right over the airport as a Category 3 storm, still at 125 miles per hour. But boy, this track shift is big to the south, and we've been watching it on Wobble Tracker, and I said this thing is moving east and south of the track. I bet the track is going to change to the south, and boy, it sure did. I didn't think it was going to change this much this quickly, but I wouldn't be surprised if the trend even went further to the south into Sarasota County. Either way, for now, and I do say for now, this track will be blowing water out of Tampa Bay. 250,000+ homes. I'd say at least 1 million people will not be impacted with the storm surge compared to this track being 50 to 70 miles to the north. So let's go over the rest of the statistics here. Here is the new model plots. You see the black line. This is the consensus model, okay? This is going right through Sarasota. There's no models. Well, maybe one. There's one model, and this is the H-Wharf model, which is one of those hurricane models, the ones that I don't really feel are too accurate in regards to where this thing is going to make landfall. Most of the global models, the European model, the pinkish purple models, the GFS model, Canadian is a little bit further to the south. But look at that. Even the Canadian model is now going through Charlotte Harbor and southern Charlotte County. But these models have significantly pushed off to the south. Again, I thought this would happen, but wow, did it happen quickly. And now the average is right over Sarasota. Again, we still have 10 to 15 foot on our map here, but if this storm holds its track south of the bay, this will be zero. It will be wiped out. It will be nothing. Water will be pushed out of Tampa Bay. There may be some very slight storm surge on the eastern edges of Pinellas County, Shore Acres area towards St. Pete, but nothing like the catastrophic damage that we would have seen. And again, we're not out of the woods, but right now the trend is the track moving south in Sarasota, and right now the water being pushed out of the bay. So I'm more concerned about coastal Sarasota. I'm more concerned about Charlotte and Lee County in southwest Florida. If this continues to do what Ian did and continues to move southward, then they are going to have catastrophic storm surge, unfortunately, yet again, 2 times over really a 2-year period, because 2 years ago was Ian. So scenario number 1, which again is looking less likely, if the storm was further to the north, that would push water into Tampa Bay. About 1 million or so people would be impacted with severe flood damage to at least 250,000 homes with 10 to 15 foot of storm surge, including our building right here that's right along the Hillsborough River. Scenario number 2, which is, look at that, along this black arrow that was drawn by Jeff Baradelli a couple of days ago, and ironically happens to be the current National Hurricane Center track right over Sarasota. Again, this wouldn't bode well for Southwest Florida, but Southwest Florida is going to experience high storm surge values regardless of if this was around St. Pete.
So to be clear, Eric, that storm surge scenario is more likely right now than storm surge scenario 1.
Correct.
If we have this correctly, right?
Correct, because this arrow that Jeff happened to draw on Saturday, okay, happens to be the current NHC track right now. How interesting. And again, the worst surge would be 10 to 15 still in Sarasota and Manatee County, still a good 6 to 10 foot in Charlotte Harbor, maybe up to 12 if this keeps moving southward, and a good 5 to 8, maybe up to 10 feet, unfortunately, Fort Myers Beach. But the water would be pushed out of Tampa Bay. The water would be pushed away from Pinellas County that really dealt with that severe surge with Helene. So this is the more likely scenario. As far as wind goes, now that doesn't mean we're out of the woods. It's still going to be windy, and it's going to be very, very rainy. Tropical storm force wind sometime mid-afternoon on Wednesday. So let's take a look and see. There it is, 3, 4 o'clock, tropical storm force wind in the yellow. Once we get into the early morning hours after midnight, still hasn't made landfall, right? 60-plus mile-an-hour wind. But look at the hurricane force wind. With this track to the south, just maybe, much of Hillsborough County, Tampa northward, would not even experience hurricane force wind. Oh, think of that. And again, if the track shifts even further to the south, I mean, there's a chance, a very slim one, but there's a chance that just maybe here in Tampa, we don't get hurricane force sustained wind. I'm so just flabbergasted
you
with
can't
this.
even say it because you can't even believe it would happen.
I'm speechless. I felt it would happen, but then when you see it happening, and you see it happening so fast, you're like, is this happening? And yes, it is happening. Maybe this is a surprise. Again, folks to the south, it's not a good surprise. Folks in the Bay Area, boy, a good million people not impacted with storm surge. Okay, put this into motion. Much of Polk County is still going to experience hurricane force wind over 75 miles an hour. And then south of Orlando, now Orlando's not even in hurricane force wind, not even Cape Canaveral, but as you head southward, north of Jupiter, maybe Vero Beach, Sebastian, maybe close to there, seeing some hurricane force wind. But now some of that water being kind of pushed onto the shore of Daytona. So Daytona to Cape Canaveral, Titusville, now you're looking at a storm surge of 3 to 5 feet to the north of the storm on the East Coast, while here, by Thursday evening, it looks like that wind is pretty much over. So the European model, again, I haven't looked at the actual numbers. We're going to look at them together, showing the greatest threat of wind sometime in the middle of the night, early in the morning. But you can see where the center is at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's in southern Hillsborough County, and it quickly moves to the east by Thursday afternoon. GFS model, again, showing the hurricane force wind sometime overnight Thursday. GFS is a little bit quicker. By Thursday morning, it takes it already to the east of Orlando and then offshore, and by Thursday evening, the winds do subside a bit. Although the wind gusts are still going to be strong, don't get me wrong, we're still seeing, look at that, 100 mile per hour wind gust before the system even makes landfall in Sarasota, because now even the GFS model is a little bit further to the south, 90 plus St. Pete down to Venice. And again, once we get this storm out of here, we're seeing tropical storm force wind gusts at 8 o'clock Thursday morning, and by Thursday evening, we start to see that improve a bit. In-house model still hasn't really quite updated the positioning. The last time I looked at it, let's see. No, it's still pretty much going right through Tampa Bay. But again, this is an older model, and when this updates, I will be sure to show everyone just to see if our in-house model does move this to the south. Right now, the in-house model is one of the furthest north models compared to all of the global ones. Still, the greatest threat of wind between midnight and 2 a.m. Still, hurricane force wind gust up to 3, 4, and 5 o'clock. Everything really moves to the east, and tropical storm force wind eventually will settle down sometime mid-Thursday morning. So let's show you the rain. And again, there's a lot of heavy rain to the north and northeast of the storm, but especially to the north of the storm. So if this does take a more southerly route, which is what it's looking like, if we are even in the eye wall, which I wouldn't be surprised if this continues to move south and Tampa isn't even in the eye wall, we'll still get a lot of rain. There's still a possibility of 8, 9, 10 inches of rain, locally up to 12 inches. You see this heavy rain swath right here around Wesley Chapel, maybe the Citrus Park area, in maybe even down to Town and Country toward Tampa International. Yeah, a lot of rain expected there, and points east, north of I-4. By Thursday morning, everything kind of gets out of here. Still, very high risk of rainfall. Our forecast model showing anywhere from 7 to 12 inches in that bright yellow shading. So again, what we can expect if the GFS model verifies. Now look, remember yesterday, the GFS model had the rain way up here in Citrus County because it had a north landfalling system. Now that the GFS is down where the track is, now we're seeing that 8 to 12 inch possibility right here in Tampa. And the European model, maybe even a little bit further south, as that swath is much of Hillsborough and central Polk County. So this is what we can expect. Wherever the center of circulation is and to the south, record storm surge 10 to 15 feet. This is nothing to laugh at. I'm telling you, people in Manatee, Sarasota, even Charlotte County, this is not a good scenario. You definitely want to evacuate if you're told to evacuate. Hopefully you already did, but if you haven't and you're wondering because maybe you live a little bit further to the south and you live along the coast, now is the time to get out of there. You'll still have maybe a couple of hours early tomorrow morning to plan things out and to get out on the roadway. If you live in Southwest Florida, Charlotte County, maybe even in Sarasota, I would head south and I would head east along Alligator Alley into the Fort Lauderdale area, Coral Springs area, Sunrise, even down toward Miami, Coral Gables, anywhere in that area, even Homestead. Strongest wind gusts still 100 plus miles per hour. But I'm telling you, if this keeps moving to the south, I don't think we see it in Tampa. But again, it has moved to the south slightly. Whether it will continue that trend is to be seen. But I do think it will. I really do think it's going to continue that. Heaviest rain, again, 12 inches or more in some spots. And of course, we're looking at this wobble tracker and we're looking to see, notice right here, it's moving barely east-northeast, right? Look at that. The track had it moving straight northeast. And so it is so far east of that everything has corrected. And now we are seeing that track shift to the south. So JB, I mean, this is potentially huge life-saving information for potentially over 1 million people that live in and around the Bay Area if this does move to the south. Of course, you know, folks down in Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Port Charlotte, Northport, Sarasota, it doesn't look as good for them, but they were expected to pick up 10 to 15 foot of storm surge regardless of if this moved to the north. Now we're seeing that strong wind field moving a little bit further to the south.
Make no mistake about it, folks. We now have a Category 5 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, but that weakening trend is expected to continue, right? So can we bring the track back up? Because I want to see what strength Sarasota, Manatee counties are going to be getting at landfall approximately, it's not going to be a Category 5. The weakening is going to occur. It's just, are we coming down from a 5 to a 3?
It's still the same. So right here you can see. So it's coming from a pretty strong 4 down to a 3.
This cone is definitely more narrow than it was at the 11 a.m. advisory. And we should note as well a slight delay. We were anticipating, a 1:32 a.m. landfall. This is now likely a 3 a.m. landfall, but impacts will be felt starting when, roughly?
I would say tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening, so definitely.
Dinner time?
Yeah, early dinner, like 5, 6 o'clock. We're going to start to see the winds pick up here in Tampa. A little bit further to the south, maybe around 2, 3 o'clock. Maybe Sarasota area down toward Port Charlotte, 2, 3 o'clock. And then once you get further to the north here in Tampa, I'd say around 5.
It's interesting. When you're zoomed out this much, the track shift might not seem that big to you.
But when you do
especially if you're watching on a mobile device. You look here, some people might see a big shift. Some people might see a small shift. But you have to understand, it's big in this regard. It's big for Tampa. Tampa, this nook in the section of right there in the center of your screen, it's so vulnerable, given that it is a bay and there's so much, obviously, property along Tampa Bay, but also so much storm surge potential. So it's a big shift from an impact standpoint. It's big. I mean, it's just one word to describe it.
Again, if you're looking, and I try to get an idea of how many homes are in and around Tampa Bay, okay, from Manatee County all the way around to Pinellas. And the general consensus were several hundred thousand, okay? I would say in excess, JB, of 250,000 homes. And if this took a track to the north, if the average number of people, just say 4 people lived in each home, that's 1 million, okay? And some of those buildings are, taller than just one story. They may be hotels. I would say that this impact would affect over 1 million, at least 1 million people. And the fact that this is moving to the south, those 1 million people that would have had 15 foot of storm surge, we wouldn't even be able to get out of here. And I don't swim too well, JB, but we wouldn't even be able to get out of the station.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
Somewhat strong-ish
to the opposite
swimmer. I'm not Brooke Bennett, but I am a strong swimmer compared to. Well, look, I don't know if I'm
compared to me.
I can swim. Bottom line is, I wouldn't want to swim in these waters if we were flooded out. So that's why I asked about the kayak earlier, if we have one at the station. But I mean, look, Tampa, you're not out of this yet.
No,
but what are we expecting at 11 o'clock? Are we expecting another shift south?
Well, let's see. Let's keep an eye on our Wobble tracker. Remember, once I saw, 1 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
Once I saw this really deviate, I said, it's staying south. The models just might initialize further south and east. And the next run of models just might be further south with a cone, right? And voila. 4 hours later, the models come out, 3:30, and look at that. They were way south. And now NHC come out with their cone, and voila, look at that, way south. So, again, it's hard to tell right now. Like I said, my original Saturday prediction was that this was going to go through central Sarasota County, almost right over downtown Sarasota. It has meandered from Indian Rocks as far south now to SRQ, Sarasota Airport. I do think it's going to continue to move south. Usually when you see a trend, it will continue in this case. I can't tell you how many storms I've watched in the Gulf over the years and years and years. And when there is a cold front that's coming in from the north, if the models are in error, they're always in error to the north, meaning the storm always goes a little bit further south than what the models show. Now, I can't say that's going to happen 100% of the time, but the pattern that I've noticed with these cold fronts, when you've got a front coming through, and again, on the other side of this, JB, we're going to have cool, dry air. I mean, we're talking about 66 for a low temperature come Friday morning, all right? This is a real legitimate cold front. The models predict that this will kind of kink the front, so to speak. It kind of pushes up, a little. Instead of the front being flat like this, the hurricane comes in and it kind of goes, whoop, it kinks the front if it's not strong enough. But if the front is strong enough, it kind of just rides that front. It goes right along it. So if that's the case, this could very well be even further south than what we're seeing right here.
Okay, so look, I want more. I know our audience wants more. And what I mean for more, I mean more model data. So I'm going to ask about the GFS. I'm going to ask about the Euro. I want to know about the Icon. I want to know about our in-house model. I want to know about every model we can get our hands on post 5 o'clock, because I want to know, look, our audience has communicated to us over the course of our coverage of Milton. They want as much model data as possible. So what do we have in the last 30 or so minutes that has developed on those models, if anything at all? We're waiting on the in-house model, our WFLA model, right?
All we've had was the 3:30 update, okay? And you see the consensus models in the black. That's pretty much right over SRQ Airport. You see the pinkish models are the European models. The Canadian models, the light blue models, those are the south models. The Icon is somewhere in the middle, very close to the black line. And then the H Wharf, which is one of those.
Let's go full screen.
The H Wharf, which is one of those hurricane models that Jeff and I both said are probably going to be wrong. And I said, for the most part, in intensity, it kind of nailed it. But as far as the positioning, no. Look how far. It's the only model that's north of Tampa Bay, and it's way up there. It's Tarpon Springs area. But this was, I don't know if you remember, yesterday this was Big Bend area. A couple of the European models, the pinkish models, go right near Northport. See that? So I'm a little bit concerned that might be the AI model. That might be the European AI, because that's a little bit slower. Now, these are the intermediate runs. Remember, we have 0Z and we have 12Z runs of these models. Then we have intermediate runs, which may be a little bit lacking. It's hard to explain. But the 0 and the 12Z are the main model runs. They go out, 10 days. The intermediate runs only go out 5 to 7, if that. I don't even think they go out 7 days. So, again, well, GFS does. But all we know is that the trend of these models have been moving to the south. Unfortunately, we're not going to get anything new. The only thing that eventually will update is our in-house model, and I will keep a close eye on that. Let me find.
In the meantime, let's just show Wobble Tracker. So, of course, with the NHC's new track, a correction occurring here, because we see that. But look at the most recent satellite runs on this. Look at the move northeast now. There was that, strange sort of, shift to the southeast by southeast, if you will.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, once again, progressing northeast or east by northeast. That's what we're looking at here on Wobble Tracker. This streams all the time on WFLA.com. So if you want to monitor Wobble Tracker through the night when we're not in the stream center, you want to keep it up on a tab and just have it open all the time, you can absolutely do so. It's streaming on our website. YouTube moderators, perhaps we can provide a link to the Wobble Tracker, and hopefully it helps folks out.
I mean, our in-house model might have updated, but this to me looks very similar. This kind of eye over the skyway. Doesn't that look similar to you?
No, that's the old one.
That's the old one, yeah. And because this is a super high res, it does take a little bit longer than the typical model. If I take it off a high res, I don't know what it's going to look like. Let's see. Is it going to show me anything? Show me something. Come on. No. Yeah, the way this is set up, it probably has to be on the high res.
Who we got to call other than the Ghostbusters? Who are we calling to get the in-house model? Let's. I want to see this as soon as possible. You know what I mean?
It's not, because see how we're missing data we're missing data offshore. You only see the lines Yeah, this is still the same. This is still the same model as before.
I'm curious about the in-house model getting updated as soon as possible because the in-house model was really spot on during Helene, our WFLA model, and
let's see.
I want to know. Here's what I want to know about the in-house model. Is it lined up with the NHC's track?
No. I think it's a little north.
Or you think it's going to be more north? You think the most?
Well, right now, whether it's updated or not. Let me see. This is not the high-res model, so let me take these points off here.
Okay.
And I do think this is a little bit further south. So what we're going to do is we're going to get close.
I emailed you. So perhaps we can get that working. No. I emailed you something new 30 seconds ago. Yeah.
Okay. So you see the eye of the storm, right? And it does appear to be south.
Wait, which model are we looking at now?
This is our in-house, but it's not the high resolution.
Oh, okay. So the high res the high res hasn't come in yet.
Right.
Okay.
But it's the same thing as this. It's not going to be any different. You see where the eye is. It's
larger.
Yeah. And I mean, it almost looks, maybe, yeah, there's really not much difference. It looks like it's still pretty much over Anna Maria Island or
if we're calling balls and
Tampa
strikes,
Bay, yeah,
slightly north of the, I mean, a microscopic difference between the NHC's
and this isn't
track.
going to update for a while, so. But again, when you have so many other models that the spaghettis, and I'll pull those up. You have so many other models that have shifted to the south, okay? Just because our in-house model didn't in the last run, I take that with a grain of salt. You've got all these global models that have shifted to the south, and that is what's big because we had nothing in Charlotte County, hardly anything in Sarasota County, right, before. Now, all of a sudden, we've got one model north of Tampa Bay itself and most models south of Tampa Bay. So all we can do is monitor over the next several hours and even overnight. When we come back tomorrow, we're really going to have a good idea, JB, of where this is going.
Did the Wobble tracker and the wobbles to the east of the NHC's line set this up?
I think so. Yeah.
Can you explain?
And like I said, yesterday I had said, if this meanders off the track, it's probably not going to do much, right? It'll probably go a little bit to the south, a little bit to the north. But today I said it's more important. I said, if we start to see wobbles today, when we're about a day and a half out from landfall, and we're, realistically, JB, less than 36 hours, right? Mm-hmm. 36 hours is 5:30 in the morning Thursday. So if we're less than 36 hours out of landfall and we start to see these wobbles, they start to mean a little bit more. And in my opinion, and I know, other opinions may be different than mine, but in my opinion, I really thought that not the initial wobble, JB, but 6 hours of it going off track was going to do something to the official forecast track. Mm-hmm. Because you can't move 6 hours in a different direction than forecast and still wind up in the same place. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't work that way. So what happens is the models are forecasting at 11 o'clock in the morning, the original track, right? And then 6 hours later, it moves east of where it should have been. So then the models have to correct. So then the models start to the east of where the track should have been, which means all the tracks are going to be further to the east, meaning further to the south. Because remember, the wobble trackers showed Milton going south of the track. So now all the models initialized. Their first observation point was south of the NHC track. So that means the cone, if everything else stays the same, is that much further south of the Hurricane NHC track. So that's basically what happened. We didn't just see a wobble. We saw a complete movement off.
Well, right, because, wobbles that add up together.
Right. But Ian,
yep.
Remember, Ian was supposed to go more to the north, but we saw it go north, then wobble east, the north, then wobble east, the north, then wobble. It was like steps. And every time it wobbled east, it was moving away from the track. And those steps added up. This is a constant motion off the track. So it's kind of like you're telling me I'm going one way, but I'm really going the other way. So you better catch up to me, track, because I'm not coming back. Totally different. You know what I'm saying? With Ian, it was like a north and east, the north and east, the north and east. And eventually that led to a more, easterly component and it moving more to the south. This was a straight line to the east and east-northeast, straight line for a good 6 hours when it was supposed to go northeast for 6 hours. So basically, you draw a triangle from the northeast down and to the east, and that's the difference in the area that this should have been to the north, but it's not. It's that much further to the south. One other thing that I noticed on that.
And then we're going to pivot to what's next in our stream. But, yeah, please continue.
I want to see. Okay, so we don't have. What I want to do is I want to look at. I want to see what the Hurricane Center's saying.
Oh, there was some key messages. I mean, that's something we should probably pass along to our audience.
Wait a minute. Is that a 5:30 update? It is.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, yep. So we have a 5:30 update.
They just issued a 5:30 update
because hurricane hunters are flying through. Oh my gosh! So 905 millibars.
I got to alert our team because that is out of nowhere.
Yeah, and sometimes they will issue updates when the hurricane hunters are flying through a storm, and they find something. So
I don't remember what the pressure was at.
It was 9/11.
It was 9/11. So. And max wind speeds were
165.
I want to go back in time. Hold on.
Oh, no, wait a minute. It was 9:18 at 5 o'clock. It was 9:18.
Hold on. I can go back in time on our stream. All right. At 5 o'clock, it was max wind speeds of 165 miles an hour, 918 millibars,
wow.
East by northeast. Okay, so the only thing that was changed was a drop in pressure.
Yeah, they're not going to change the movement. But you know what? Let's keep an eye on this because maybe... Boy, that's a big drop in pressure for the wind not going up.
They just put it out.
Yeah.
Here, hold on. I want to read this. Observations from the Air Force Reserve hurricane hunters confirm that Hurricane Milton is a Category 5 hurricane with max sustained winds of 165 miles per hour.
You see the pressure drop?
The minimum central pressure down to 905 millibars. Yes, you need to... Okay. Come on in. Everybody, Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baradelli sitting down, was just on air on WFLA News Channel 8.
I have like 15 minutes before I have to get back on the 6 o'clock show. So you see the 9.5, but actually the hurricane hunters have found 902 now. 902. So we're probably heading back into the 800s again, which is just, crazy.
Yeah, why?
Well, think about it. The storm's been moving further south, further east. That means the jet stream and the wind shear is having less of an impact on it. And so the storm is able to kind of breathe, and it's a favorable environment for it to intensify again. But it's starting to be influenced by the jet stream because you could see it's starting to take a little bit more of a northeast turn right about there. But the wobble that we've been talking about all afternoon might have done the work that it needed to do, JB. Of course, you've seen the 18Z spaghetti plots showing the majority of them south of the bay now, and an average somewhere in Sarasota County and no longer in Pinellas or over the Tampa Bay. So, look, I just want to say, for the folks who are in Pinellas and Hillsborough, you may be trying to breathe a sigh of relief, but don't do it quite yet. I mean, certainly what we see so far looking better for the northern counties in terms of surge. But, we've seen it a million times. Just another shift 30, 40 miles back north again, and it puts Tampa Bay and all that surge back in. And, of course, the other thing I'm sure you've been talking about a lot, Eric, is now if the storm shifts south,
we're in that rain.
The rain and the let me tell you, the graph, I changed the color table on it because it was so high.
The graph of the in-house model.
7 inches more now?
Our in-house model. So we had it essentially ending at 8 inches and then just showing the same color for 8 inches and up. You want to know what it shows? 20-something inches of rain in northern Pinellas County. Yeah.
Is that something? Yeah, maybe we can
Is
get
that-
that up on the
did
graphic.
you update that?
I did, but it's in my show. So go into my show if you can go into it. It should be the last updated.
It's always your show, Jeff. What weather source can I bring up?
No, it's
No, it's actually
you have
in
to
his show.
pull it
Okay,
in.
so I'm in your show.
and it should be the top. It should be.
I
Actually,
see
no.
top
Go
heavy.
no. Go into my Go into my folder. Go into the Baradelli folder.
Oh, the folder.
Yeah, and pull it out of there, and you'll see I changed the color table because I wanted to get granular on. Okay,
Oh,
fine.
there
We're
it
gonna
is.
see 8 inches plus, and we knew it would be 10 to 15, but there are actually some areas in magenta which are actually, if you look at the color
We'll
table,
see if
you'll
it's
see
got
over
the,
18 inches.
We'll
of
see
rain.
if it's got the banner. I can't promise. Oh, it does.
Yeah, I added some. There's no legend. I added the.
Oh, my goodness.
Just so that purple, that magenta is over 18 inches of rain, and that dark
Wow.
shading of red
Is screenshot worthy, folks. Going full screen.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom this in so you can really get a good look here.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to save it that way, but I'll.
Yeah. So the purple, and I have to be honest with you, I think that the purple is actually that dark, the brighter shade of purple in Pinellas. That's more like 24 inches of rain. Now I don't know that we're
goodness.
going to see that. And by the way, I will let you in on a little secret. Because the models are shifting, and we haven't gotten the new graph yet.
I know.
I shifted that rain band down myself around 13 miles from. So I basically shifted it. So the National Hurricane Center corrected the track like 15 miles south, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I shifted the rain band south because I expect that that's probably what will
Yeah,
end up happening.
yeah.
But the model itself has that heavy rain over Pasco and northern Pinellas near Tarpon. So let's see what the new run's going to come in, within the next half hour or less.
I thought it was 7:15ish.
I thought we were going to get
4:15, 7:15 for
Yeah, but I don't
graph.
think. So you think that is the new run?
I think it is.
Oh,
I think that's the 4:15. run.
you know how to check that?
Yeah, I remember you.
Okay.
I remember you. So
Yeah. So he's while and this is, I know there's a lot of inside baseball folks, but this is really important stuff. The bottom line is, if you're north of this track, you're going to get a foot to a foot and a half of rain. Maybe
It's a
some areas
rain
getting more.
event
Right.
north of the
That's right.
track.
And so people are thinking to themselves, oh, we're not going to get the surge, no flooding in my home. Well, actually, you might have been protected from the surge because you were, let's say, 40 feet above elevation. But now you're getting 18 inches of rain and there's going to be water in your home. So I've said this before. I've been saying it all day. If you're going to be north of this storm, it looks the same to me.
Yeah.
That is the same model.
It looks the same model.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be north of this storm, folks, like Pinellas, Hillsborough, take your valuables off the ground and put them up on the counter, in the closets. But don't be surprised if the water's going to come up fast. It's going to fall in a very short period of time. And we've seen this so many times this summer where these storms even though it's moving, overproduce by far.
Yeah.
Look at Sarasota's had 2 major flash flooding events. Tampa's had a major flash flooding event. Look at what just happened in North Carolina.
Yeah.
They ended up with 3 feet of rain in the place. These storms are overproducing because the water temperatures are at record levels. So I would suspect that these totals are going to be right.
And I would
Somebody's gonna
say rainfall rates, what, 6 inches an hour?
well,
5 inches an hour?
I guess at for an hour. I don't think it's going to last.
Right,
more
no,
than
no,
an
no,
hour.
no, but-
I'm thinking it's probably going to be closer to 3 to 4. But even
Okay.
3 to 4 inches an hour is too much. 2 inches an hour, our soil can handle it almost. 3 inches, not really. And 4 inches, you're in trouble.
Yeah, especially for a prolonged period.
About the Wobble Tracker really quickly, because I was told this by our team, and I have to just interject here for a second to pass along the biggest nothing announcement of all time on tracking the tropics. Okay, so people actually asked for this, and we do have it now. So YouTube moderators, I think, will be happy. Jeff, you'll be happy to know.
Okay.
WFLA.com/Wobble Tracker
Oh,
is live.
wait a second.
So the Wobble Tracker
Got your own
now
website.
yeah, you basically have your own URL. So the Wobble
Wait.
Tracker,
Okay.
this right here streams by itself in real time on WFLA.com. All you got to do on any browser, on any device, is punch in WFLA.com/Wobble Tracker and poof. Another announcement that I want to share, it might seem like a small thing, but I think to our YouTube audience specifically, this might be somewhat of a deal. There was a lot of communication back and forth on this one point, but we have deactivated YouTube ads. No more advertisements on YouTube.
Wait a second. That money was going directly into my account.
I was supposed to get 10% of that, Jeff.
I thought I was going to get 20. Did he give you the
Yeah.
same deal?
Yeah. No, he only gave me 10.
What are you doing to my? What are you doing to Eric?
I know. I'm going to bring the storm back in.
I thought
into
we had
Tampa now.
a non-disclosure agreement, guys. I'm gonna have to sue you.
We all here get paid the same at the end of the day, regardless of whether or not we get a million views, 10 million views, or 10 million. Doesn't matter.
Yes, that's true.
We're just trying to save life and property. We don't care about that aspect.
Exactly
of it.
right.
We're just a bunch of nerds, and we're here to help you.
I mean, JB, how excited did I get when I saw those model runs?
Eric nearly like
he didn't jump on a couch, did he?
Like I think I peed myself a little bit because I got so excited.
Jumped on the couch on Oprah. He didn't do that, did he?
Close.
No. Listen, we were all but here's the thing, and we try to go back to this again. One person's gain is another person's loss, so we have to be. Really, I mean, because, look, here's the thing, and you've been saying it too, Eric, that regardless of where this storm tracked, unfortunately, that 10 plus feet of surge was heading into
going to happen
Sarasota
anyway,
County
correct.
And possibly Manatee County. But now I think not only is it Sarasota County, but now we're pushing some of that into Port Charlotte and maybe even Fort Myers more.
Yes.
So again, and we're not even sure that is going to happen, right? Seems likely. We've been thinking that it was going to that was our gut feeling.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Pass south of the Sunshine Skyway, and it probably will happen more likely than not. But don't make any decisions based on that. We need at least the 0Z models. We need at least one more model run to confirm that this south trend will continue before we lock it in and say, all right, folks, we think, that north of Tampa Bay, or on the north side of Tampa Bay, things are looking better.
But we even, said we're either going to get the massive storm surge or the massive rainfall amounts. And I said I'd rather have the rainfall amounts than 15 foot of storm surge.
That's true.
But each one is going to have major impacts for different people. And boy, I mean, 18 to 24 inches of rain.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to verify, but I have to tell you, the graph has done a good job. And like I said, these storms all summer have been overperforming the models. And so I take it seriously when I see this. I mean, look at what happened twice in Sarasota County this summer where there was awful flooding. Debbie overperformed. Then we had our 2 thunderstorm days in Tampa where there was so much flooding that Val is afraid of the water now. I mean, because she drove home, got stuck in like 3 or 4 feet of water.
Poor Val.
So I don't know if she's here right now, but no, I'm just saying, and a lot of people were stuck that night.
Yeah.
This warmer water and the warmer air is just leading to situations we haven't seen before. And, they used to teach us in college, and Eric, I'm sure they taught you this too, because we went to college at around the same time.
Yeah.
They used to say, never forecast a record. Remember that?
Yes. Oh, I remember that. Yep.
Your professors would always say, never forecast a record because it never happens.
Yep.
But now, forecast a record because it
happens all the time. Yeah.
All right, let's bring it back to our audience. We asked in a poll, everybody, on WFLA's YouTube page, what people want to see while we have a big audience. Again, this is purely a live stream where we are trying to cater to our audience as much as possible and make sure that our meteorologists are giving you the information that you seek. So we listen to our audience via the comment sections on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, and I'll pass along what they have been looking for the most. As much model data, so any runs that we have, GFS and Euro, the Icon, the in-house model from WFLA, any model runs that we can show that have come in the last hour or so. And then another big thing that they want, and perhaps we can do this now, Eric, if the computer is working, we want to go hyper-local into some of these areas that could be impacted. And now that we have a track that goes through Manatee, Sarasota counties, maybe we can zoom in on some of these communities and show some spots that are in, trouble spots, if you will.
Right.
If you have the opportunity for us to zoom in.
Oh, yeah.
Last I checked, the National Hurricane Center hadn't updated their surge forecast yet. That was like 20 minutes ago when I was downstairs. So I'm going to check on my phone to see if they've updated the surge.
All right.
What I can't, but you asked specifically about the Icon, right? So we just got. I'm not going to be able to show it to you because I have to build a graphic for that, and I don't have the time right now. But the Icon hasn't changed. The 18Z run, which is the newest run, still shows landfall on Anna Maria Island, the exact place the 12Z showed. It has not changed at all. So that's the 18Z Icon. Let me look at the 18Z GFS And Eric,
That
feel
one
free.
did look a little bit lower.
That hasn't come in yet, though. The
Oh, no, it
18Z
hasn't? Oh, no, I was looking at the 12Z.
The 18Z GFS is on the way. I think we'll have it out to like 72 hours, probably in about the next 10 minutes or so. And you're gonna have to check because I'll probably be back down
Right.
the stairs. But the icon hasn't changed. It's still over Anna Maria. So you would think that the icon would have changed,
Yeah, you would have thought so.
but it hasn't. And the icon's been pretty good. So again, that's why I say, and Eric says too,
Yeah.
let's just wait, cautious about how different it will be in terms of surge in Tampa Bay, because this is such a historic event. If it were to happen, it's such a life-changing event, and I want to be certain before we call it and say,
course.
this surge is not coming into the Bay, because it's still close.
I do want to see if, on our Wobble tracker, eventually, I want to see if this still goes south of the track. And I really believe that big southerly movement had a great deal to do with this shift of the cone.
That tees me up for what I want to ask about next. Is a big comment in our comment section right now. But Jeff, how much longer do you have with us on stream? I just want to check.
I have probably about, I'd say, 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
Probably 4 minutes.
Good opportunity for us to introduce our hashtag Q&A system. Use any of the hashtags on your screen, like Hey Eric, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag Hey Jeff. We can bring in your comment on screen. Cash on YouTube Live. Isn't it still going to get pulled north from the jet stream, or is that already being taken into account? Before you answer, I know you guys are ready to answer this one because, yes, we want to talk about the system being pulled north from the jet stream. But there is a lot of folks in our comment section asking about whether or not South Florida, Miami, and the greater Miami area, if that is even remotely in play with this storm.
I mean, I don't think so. I've been telling people to evacuate into that part of the state. The jet stream is going to pick this storm up. But notice, it's still almost due west of central Cuba. So obviously the jet stream has to pick this to the north if it's going to make it to the west coast of Florida, right? Otherwise, it would just keep going straight east into Cuba, and that's not going to happen. So the jet is going to pick this to the north, but obviously it hasn't quite done so yet because, first of all, the east-northeast movement, and second, we're not going to be seeing this significant strengthening. And the reason why this strengthened again so much, it went through an eye wall replacement cycle. So what happens is the eye gets filled in. It does lose a little bit of punch, but then it gains it right back once that eye wall is pretty much reformed. And sometimes that happens a couple times, but this is exactly what just happened. And now the eye is bigger and better, and now you see the pressure is going right back down to almost where it was yesterday.
Eric, Jeff, I want you to chime in here on that question as well. But Eric, because this is an outdated model, can we bring the track back up and show the most recent thing for people that are maybe just getting home from work and joining us?
I mean, I wonder if it's outdated or it just is exactly the same almost as it was last time. I mean, I can check. Do you know how to check, Eric? You check it on the right side of the product itself. There's a little.
When you open it up,
let me see. Do you mind if I?
In the meantime, let's check out Wobble Tracker, and we do have this comment that comes in as well. Sarah saying hashtag HJB, love the Wobbler. I guess that's a fun nickname for the Wobble Tracker. This streams all the time on WFLA.com, as I repeatedly mentioned, and it is now live on WFLA.com/Wobble Tracker.
My father texted me, and he called it the Wobbler.
This makes me
And I'm like, wait a second. I'm sorry. I named this, Dad. You can't call it the Wobbler. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Sarah.
That makes me want peach cobbler. I mean, that's what I think
don't
of.
start talking about food.
No, that sounds really good.
JB, that's the new model.
Yeah.
That is the new model. It's exactly the same.
Figured
it hasn't
was.
changed, just like the icon.
Serious.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So
Can we zoom in on it then?
Yeah. The eye
is
is
the same model?
It's the same. It just
wait.
how accurate it is, and it's right over Tampa Bay.
I'm sorry. No, wait. This is the new.
This is the
run of that.
This
of
is
that
the
model.
4:30 p.m. model that comes
and
in.
it's the same as it was 6 hours ago, almost exactly.
Yeah.
Almost exactly.
This oval. Of the eye over the Sunshine Skyway Bridge looks almost identical to what
almost
we had.
identical.
I know. That's how good the model is. It's very good. And the icon, by the way, is on the south. It's just maybe a mile or two south of that.
Right.
And again, these are the models that we've been putting decent stock in. So that's why I say, it's not time yet to breathe a sigh of relief in Hillsborough and Pinellas. It probably is. The south trend is probably a real trend. It's probably going to go south of Tampa Bay, but it's still too close to call, folks. Right. And again, that wobble that we saw over the past couple hours may be just that.
Yeah.
It may just simply be a wobble, and it may do the exact same thing on the north side in the next couple of hours and recorrect its position again. And then the models will get that data in and say, oh boy, now it's back west of the track or on track again. So it's just
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see if it does. I mean, obviously with Helene, you saw that huge wobble with the eye that kind of, the storms were top heavy. So it was kind of wobbling the whole system around. And so it was off the track. And then a few hours later it was on. But this is such a steady as she goes, with the eye that, I mean, we'll see if it does. We'll see if it overcorrects.
I have one important thing, and then I probably have to go.
Yep, all yours.
The average track error from the National Hurricane Center, 24 to 36 hours out, is 40 to 50 miles. That's the average track error. I bet that if we were to measure the distance between Tampa and Sarasota, it's probably about, 40 miles or so. So the average track error means that there's likely error in the track from the National Hurricane Center.
You said between Tampa and Sarasota? Because I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
Well, how about Indian Rocks? Because the track was on Indian Rocks, and then now it's down to SRQ.
You mean it went as far south.
Right.
So I'm just saying the average error at this stage from the National Hurricane Center is 40 to 50 miles. Right now, they have the track over Sarasota. A 40 or 50 mile correction puts it back in the middle of Pinellas County.
Puts it right back to Indian Rocks where it was.
So
the line distance, like straight line,
a little less
from
than 40
Tampa,
miles, right?
Florida to Sarasota, Florida, if that's what you wanted, 42 and a half miles.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
That's not bad.
Yep.
You know, if meteorology doesn't
work out, I can
for
be
you can be the guy at the circus that guesses the distance.
That's right.
I was about to say, are there any jobs for that? All right. With all that said, folks, I have to go because I have to go do the 6 o'clock show. But are you going to be still streaming at 6:30? I don't mean to put you on the spot here.
I have a hard time believing that we won't be streaming.
So
at
as soon as I'm
6:30.
done, I'm going to come back up and be with you guys at 6:30. Okay.
Yep.
All right, everybody. See you soon.
Meteorologist Jeff Baradelli joining us here in the Stream Center.
So really no new models are going to kind of pop up until 7:30ish is when the new graph, between 7:30 and 8 is when the new graph. So for the 8 o'clock update, if Jeff does a stream, if you guys do a stream, the new graph will be up. But as far as the spaghetti models, they won't update till about 9:15 or so. So that's another 3.5, about a little over 3 hours. So we're not going to get much new model data between now and 8:30. You know what I'm saying?
Let's go to the questions. Destiny wants to know. Hashtag, hey, Jeff, and he just left. Hashtag HJB. Yep. Will it hit more than a Cat 3 now? Well, so are we getting hit with a major hurricane or a hurricane? It's a negligible difference, but
in my opinion, we're getting hit with a major hurricane. There's quite a lot of weakening as you look at the cone there from Wednesday afternoon till 12 hours later. That's quite a lot of weakening. So there needs to be a lot of wind shear. I mean, there is going to be a lot of wind shear in place. So I still think it's going to weaken to a 3. But again, I mean, you're talking a major hurricane hitting the West Coast. Whether it's a 3 or a low-end 4 or a high-end 2, you're still going to see destructive impacts on this.
It's a bit of a slowdown noted here as well, as we noted earlier for those just joining us. Yeah, it looks like, what's interesting about the slowdown?
What's that?
Folks in Orlando are going to wake up at sunrise or around that time. If you're waking up around sunrise, you are waking up to a hurricane, no?
Yeah, pretty close to it. 7, 8 o'clock, in the morning or so.
Or really, maybe not the greater Orlando area, I should say, rather.
Right. But again, as this track has moved, this has shifted, pretty far to the south of Orlando now. So probably not going to see hurricane force wind now in Orlando. You might see wind gust around 70-ish, but tropical storm wind 50 to 60.
So then, to correct myself and perhaps be a little bit more accurate, let's say, the area from Auburndale all the way to Kissimmee. I mean, you're talking about probably waking up to sunrise. You're waking up to a hurricane over you.
Yeah,
right?
But I mean, look, the line goes through northwest Hardee County and it moves way south of Lakeland. It moves closer to Bartow than Auburndale, Winter Haven, any of those areas. So you'll probably still get hurricane force wind though. You're right. In Polk County, you'll be on the borderline, Lakeland up into Auburndale.
So I'm just going to look at it from a map perspective for a second, okay?
Yeah.
When you look at, one thing that we really need to add to our toolbox on this show is to show almost like a heat map for where the population is the most dense, right? Can we zoom out here a little bit? Because I think you know what I'm getting at. If this storm, can we start there? Emphasis on the word if this storm, misses Tampa or not misses Tampa, but doesn't cause catastrophic damage to Tampa, then potentially, or Orlando by extension, with the way that this track is shaped, is also missing out on a lot of the center of the storm. And going through, there are some areas here that are largely unpopulated in comparison to Tampa and Orlando. If you go, 100 or so miles southeast of Lakeland, you're getting to a lot of wildlife areas, a lot of preserves that are largely uninhabited. The Everglades, there's an extended auxiliary Air Force field for MacDill out there, and
I think I know. I think I know where you're getting at, and so I think what I'm going to be able to do here, if we take weather 4,
okay,
all right,
yep.
I'm going to zoom
into weather 4.
I'm going to zoom in, and this is what I kind of wanted to do before. So here's the cone,
right?
So now, let me extend the cone all the way out. Because here, when you zoom in, you start to see the cities, and this is what you wanted.
Okay, so the track. Look at the red line, folks. The track moving more to the south again. Awful for Sarasota and the greater Sarasota area, but when you move inland into the central section of the peninsula, you're hitting areas that are far less densely populated than, let's say, Orlando or Lakeland or the greater Orlando area. There's not as many people there in Wauchula and Frostproof as there is up north.
And even Bartow. There's a lot of farmland in that area.
Right.
And
so
Arcadia.
We talk about how Florida's Big Bend gets hit and how catastrophic it is for Florida's Big Bend, but it's not as many people as, let's say, a Miami, a Jacksonville, a Tampa, a Fort Myers. So it's this storm. I think I know what I think people think I know. I think people know what I'm trying to lay down here, which is that the storm moving more to the south, when it moves past the coast, is entering a less habited area than the greater Orlando area.
And the reason is
moving south of the I-4 corridor.
Yeah, that's the whole point, I-4, right? Because we wouldn't have an I-4 if Tampa wasn't so densely populated and Orlando wasn't so densely populated. And, Lakeland in the middle is densely populated. And you go all the way to Daytona, right? You don't have an I-4 from Sarasota to Wauchula to Vero Beach because there's just not many people that live.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people live in Sarasota, and there's some people that live in Vero Beach, but you don't have that dense population as you do from St. Pete to Tampa to Lakeland to Orlando.
Just look at it. Southeast of on this map, folks, you see it? Southeast of Frostproof and Wauchula.
So if I go right here I zoom in, these are all small towns.
Sebring is relatively small.
Yep, Lake
town.
Placid, Okeechobee, anything west of the East Coast.
And so it's not optimal news for folks in this town.
Right.
But we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people not being in the line of this storm.
Or millions, really.
Maybe even millions.
Yeah, I would say millions in regards to Tampa. Even Pasco, southern Pasco County. And, you look at, Zephyr Hills to Luce to Land O'Lakes to Wesley Chapel and just, places that are to our north. still rather densely populated.
right. Zephyr
as you
Hills,
get into right as you get into
villages.
as you get into southern Pasco County, and you see the line is so far away from there. Then you get to Brandon, Valrico. A lot of people live there.
Yep.
And then
communities.
you go to Clearwater all the way up to Tarpon Springs and Newport Richey as well. Suburbs of Tampa, Town and Country, Citrus Park, Temple Terrace area. You're talking very dense population. And the further south this goes, obviously, we're not wishing ill on anyone, but it definitely affects exponentially fewer people, especially when you take storm surge out of Tampa Bay out of the equation, JB. That is the biggest thing.
So will the track shift even more to the south? Man, you mentioned Charlotte Harbor earlier. Are we talking about a Charlotte Harbor impact?
And Charlotte Harbor is right near Punta Gorda. You see that waterway.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a mini Tampa Bay.
That's exactly what I was going to
Yeah, and it's like the water gets pushed in. Downtown Punta Gorda is very low-lying anyway, just like downtown Fort Myers is. And so you've got, the water being pushed in, and you can see the mouse on the screen, pushed into Punta Gorda, pushed into the Peace River, Bayaca River's in here. And, you've got a lot of flooding that occurs. And then you come down toward Fort Myers, and you can't see it because the white cone line is there. But you got the Caloosahatchee River that goes right through downtown Fort Myers. And you get storm surge into the Caloosahatchee River. And we saw with Ian all the boats that were displaced, all the sailboats and big boats that were just on the streets of downtown Fort Myers because of that.
From Eagle.
Right, yeah. And the Caloosahatchee River runs all the way into Lake Okeechobee. And once you get east of Fort Myers, then you get the small towns like LaBelle, Moorhaven, Clewiston area. And then, Lake Placid, Venus is in there somewhere. And there's just a lot of lesser populated towns. And that doesn't mean that, if you live there, it's going to affect you, So
I want to make it clear what I am saying. There are amazing people in these towns.
yes.
And they're, and also, too, they do not have the same support that a major metro would have as well, right?
True.
A lot of these areas are rural. A lot of it is farmland. Amazing people in our rural communities. What I was trying to say is that if you looked at a heat map of densely populated areas in Florida, a track shift to the south as the storm moves inland would be going over a less densely populated area, but still populated.
Right,
There's still
right.
outstanding folks there.
Right.
People in our comment section that are joining us from there and saying, JB, we get what you're saying, but we live in Frostproof. We live in Wauchula. We live in Arcadia. We live in these towns, and I totally get that. So, so Zadiel bringing up a great point is it's less people, but a lot of mobile homes.
That's true.
A lot of less
That's
houses.
true.
We are in Highland County. There's humble people. Absolutely true.
Yes.
I was just making the point that the enormous amount of people that live along the I-4 corridor is much larger than what you would have.
And I have friends in Sebring. I've got a weather watcher. I met people in person doing a hurricane seminar a couple of years ago. Val did one in Highlands County in Sebring too. And, there are a lot of modular homes. And, boy, if this storm moves further to the south, and even where it's at now, those mobile homes, they can't withstand hurricane force wind.
We got Rebecca Barry in here popping a Diet Coke. All right. So, Rebecca Barry, everybody joining us on stream. It is good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
How's Coop? First thing.
Oh, man. Coop doesn't know what's going on because we moved everything from the first floor of our house to the second floor of our house today. And Coop is alarmed. And we brought in our patio furniture and set our couch on top of it to try to elevate it. So it's weird.
If you want to see Coop, Rebecca, Rebecca's my Instagram. I love your dog.
I do love
always checking on Coop, and a good opportunity for us to deliver a PSA here, everybody. Take care of your pets. Your outdoor pets, bring them in, and your indoor pets, just load them up with treats. They deserve it.
Yes. And try to have a place for them to use the bathroom.
Absolutely. All right, fact or fiction time. You ready?
Sure.
Fact or fiction. Okay, so do you know who's in our chat? Milton is in our chat. The commenter's name is Milton. So is this Milton? Like the Milton?
It might be the Milton.
Milton is leaving his Mexican vacation and heading back home to Florida.
It's too cold. You don't want to come here. It's too cold. Head south. You like Cuba. It's nice there.
Yo. Look. Hey, JB and Eric, what's the water temperature at the coast?
A good 85.
Temperatures will make a big difference. Fact or fiction?
Yes, it's a fact. But also the wind shear will work against this to weaken it a bit. But, without the wind shear, you see what it's doing right now. I mean, now that it's undergone that full eye wall replacement, it is now strengthening, and the pressure is almost back to where it was yesterday, thanks to extra warm water. And where it's at now, it's probably closer to 90 degrees, at least in the upper 80s.
Right over the loop current. So that's the warmest water in the Gulf right now.
That's, I mean, so talking about warm Gulf waters, I mean, things that, like as far as being near or in unprecedented territory, another question that's kind of along those lines, E. Torres on YouTube Live. Hey, JB, do you think that this will break the record for millibars with the way that it's been tracking? Jeff came on a short time ago and believes that we are looking at sub 900 millibars as far as pressure.
Which would be the second time in this storm's life to get that low. I think it would be hard at this point because it's kind of running out of time. If it weren't moving into that sheared area, possibly. Yeah. But I think it's just going to run out of time before it runs into that shear.
If this didn't run into the jet, where would this hit? Key West? Maybe go through the Florida Straits.
Yeah.
It probably would be. It could even be in the 880s. What was Wilma? 882, I believe. So I mean, it would have a long way to get to that. But I mean, so Rebecca, you see, they did an advisory at 5:30. It was 918 was the pressure, and the hurricane hunters saw, and Jeff said 902. But the wind hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So you wonder when the wind catches up if it goes back to 175 again.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. There's really no reason it wouldn't.
Right, exactly.
At least for tonight.
Yeah.
But it is expected to weaken tomorrow.
Yeah.
See Dill in our comment section, hashtags around. What kind of effects should I expect in the Homestead, Miami area?
I mean, you're so far away that I don't even know if you're going to see tropical storm wind, sustained wind, maybe gust to 40. But again, you're so far out of this. And again, we'll see if this does move any further to the south, but it's not going to make a direct impact on southeast Florida. I was telling people to evacuate to that area, and I don't believe they would be in danger if they did.
They did, because all the hotels are full. I tried to book a room for someone tonight.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Facebook Live, we're coming your way in just a moment. But first, back to YouTube Live, Gerald White. Hashtag, hey, Eric, when will the jet stream fully start pulling Milton up to the north?
It should be happening in the coming hours as we head.
It's making the little turn.
It's starting to,
Let's go to Wobble Tracker.
It's actually behaving.
Yeah, it's behaving perfectly. Although it's early, it's easy for Wobble Tracker to behave at this stage in the game because it's only like an incremental part of the line.
Exactly.
But it does look like it's maybe taking that slight northeast track. We'll see over the next couple of hours if it holds that line. But it's starting to right now. But I think it'll really start getting going overnight into early tomorrow.
Eric, do you still have your mic on?
I think so.
Is it? Yeah. Hold on. Let me bring up your levels. Talk for me.
Hello, testing.
Yeah. I just want to show you now that I can do this because we didn't have this before. But check this out. If we ever need to just kind of do a really quick show and tell with Wobble Tracker, you have that now. So why don't you, in fact, can we make sure that you fit in the frame? Is that?
I mean, I don't know. I've been eating a lot of pizza, JP. I don't know if I fit in the frame. Yeah, I think I do. So here's where you see the very end of this loop. It does kind of go like this, right? It's going straight and goes whoop, kind of to the northeast. So just maybe we're starting to see the initial impacts of that pull to the northeast. Obviously, we're not seeing it in regards to the strength yet, so we're not seeing it with the wind shear, but it does look like it is starting to behave. But as Rebecca said, 5 o'clock's here. Is it 6 o'clock yet? I mean, we've only gone this much. So when we get to 8, 9, 10, then we can see it really far off, from this icon here. Then we'll see if it really, went off the track like the earlier one did.
The Wobble Tracker streams all the time on the new URL, by the way. We announced WFLA.com/Wobble Tracker.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Okay, so we have that up and running. And look, if we won't be here in the Stream Center overnight tonight. So if you want to monitor the real-time positioning of the storm in relation to the track, it's always streaming on our website, WFLA.com. Rebecca, how long will you be gracing us with your presence?
You have me until 6:25, and then Jeff is free during the 6:30, but has to be back down for the top of the 7.
Okay. Yeah, and that's probably, we'll be wrapping up our live stream in the 6:30, 7 o'clock half hour. We'll try to get to some video questions that we have coming in. Let's go to WFLA.com/reportit, and let's bring in some of the video questions that we have.
Hey, JB.
Oh, hold on. Going through the playlist. And here we go.
We live on the ocean in Daytona Beach shores and are intending to ride it out, although we've gotten a mandatory evacuation notice for the beach side. How safe do you think it will be in the area of Daytona Beach shores? And also down in New Smyrna, how much rain do you think they will get in that area?
Daniel with the question from Daytona Beach shores.
I would say, if this thing's still a strong Cat 1, my estimate was 3 to 5 foot of storm surge. I didn't see what National Hurricane Center. I think it's pretty close to 5 feet.
What area? Sorry.
Daytona Beach.
Daytona Beach. Oh yeah, and so their high tides, they're getting increasing northeasterly winds now. So the high tides up until the storm exits your area along the East Coast will be higher than normal. 3 feet's probably about right for Daytona. The way the beach is shaped there, it's very gradually sloping, and so they feel it a bit. But they'll have coastal erosion, higher than normal high tides, and a high risk of rip currents until after this eye passes you and you get the offshore winds.
Yeah, and then in regards to rain, because you're going to be on the north side of the storm, we showed you, 18 to 24 inches of rain possible in and around Pinellas County, Tampa Bay. I don't think it'll be quite that far on the East Coast, but I wouldn't be surprised if some places, Orlando and points eastward, got about a foot of rain.
All right, next question up in the queue. We have coming in Kyle joining us from Tampa. Hello there, Kyle.
I got a question when it comes to certain model runs that we're seeing for this hurricane. Looking at the global models, the GFS and the Euro seem to be pulling the storm a little bit more to the south towards like Anna Maria, Bradenton, and Sarasota. But when it comes to the hurricane models, maybe like the HAVS A, the HAVS B, and the HMON, those types of models, they seem to be pulling the storm a little bit more north towards like northern Pinellas, like Clearwater, and in some runs as far as Newport Richey, just based off of some of the last model runs. My question is, with those hurricane models in particular, what would be certain factors that would pull that storm more to the north instead of the global models, which seem to be pulling it more to the south? Thanks.
So thank you, Kyle, for the question. This question came in pre-5 o'clock update.
Okay.
Very important to state.
I think he asked me about the HAVS B model yesterday.
I believe he did.
Because nobody else really knows what those... So basically what happens with the hurricane models is because the storm is so top-heavy and there's so much rain in the northern eye wall of the storm, those models kind of act like, all right, it's top-heavy, so it kind of wants to graduate a little bit more to the north, right? And that's what those hurricane models pretty much do. And they do take into account the top heaviness of the rain in the northern eye wall compared to the south, while the global models don't really do that. And, I do trust the global models a little bit more. Yesterday, if we did look at the HAVS A and B, even the HMON, it was almost in the Big Bend. I mean, it was Nature Coast. It was so far to the north, and it's like, come on, And I've seen that trend in the past with a storm that, rain-wise, it's not really symmetric. Obviously, you don't see the same amount of rain on the north side and the south side of the storm. But I would tend to trust the global models better than the hurricane models, in my opinion.
Anything to add there, Rebecca?
I think the hurricane models do a better job with things like intensity, but not necessarily path. And so the in-house model that we have is probably the best blend between the two in terms of hurricane models, and the graph should be able to deal with those that thunderstorm a little bit better, and it kind of splits the difference.
We're taking in your video questions from WFLA.com/reportit. You can, of course, scan the QR code on our screen. This is a tool that we will be using Thursday into Friday into the weekend to gather your weather photos and videos, your damage report photos and videos. You can share areas that have been hit hard. You can show us flooded areas, down power lines. We just ask that you do so safely and responsibly if you're going to send it in to WFLA.com/reportit. Next up in the queue, after Kyle in Tampa, we have next up Lewis in Sarasota.
Hi, WFLA crew. I am new to the area, and I'm new to hurricanes. And I just have a question about, we have so much technology and Elon Musk. Like, why can't we just nuke the center of the hurricane to get rid of it? Thank you.
Oh, wait, is this some...
I wonder, 100 years from now, if there's going to be a way that people kind of zap a storm out. But people don't understand how big these storms are and how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles,
He threw out Elon Musk and nuking a hurricane.
Yeah, I mean...
Then you just have radiation blowing around.
Yeah.
The power of a nuclear bomb would not change the low pressure system within a hurricane. That's how powerful these systems are. I forgot what estimation, if it was 30 or 300 nuclear bombs would have to go off to change it. Someone did a simulation on this because it gets asked a lot. Like, what if we bomb it?
Yeah,
what if we shoot it? Nothing happens.
No.
So, I was not expecting that question even remotely. But you know what?
You haven't been on Facebook lately.
Yeah, I have not been on Facebook.
People have been talking about this for many years.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Weather engineering is a favorite topic.
Yeah.
It's one thing to see it in a comment and then to see somebody say, "Let's just do it." Can we do it? Is just not what I had on my bingo card for today. Lewis, you're. Let me just say this: you are not the first person to ask that question. How can we use modern day weaponry to assault a hurricane and send it in the wrong direction? I've seen things like as crazy as everybody in Florida get out your shotguns and point it at the storm to blow the storm away. I've seen every crazy Facebook idea ever thrown out, and I'm telling you, if it would work, it would be part of the discussion, clearly.
Yeah. Whenever I see something really, really odd, like man makes the biggest ball of twine in the world, I'm like, oh, he was somewhere snowy. Because when you can't leave the house and you can't do things, you do strange things. I think this is Florida's version of a snowstorm. We're all sitting at home. We're all like, well, maybe we should nuke it.
You remember Superman, the old movies? I mean, that's before your time.
Which one? No.
I want to say it was Superman 3. When the earthquake happened and Lois Lane is in the ditch dying in the car, and Superman spins around the earth. He flies around the earth, and the earth stops spinning and then spins in the opposite direction. Do something like that with a hurricane, right? Go clockwise around, and then next thing you know, it's spinning like a high pressure system, and poof. We need Superman. That's it.
Bottom line, that's what we need. Facebook. Less about nukes and shotguns and massive blowing fans,
superheroes,
or
right?
Wind turbines blowing in the direction of the hurricane, and more about let's just summon Superman to save the day.
Yeah.
Next up, this is a video from I-4 in Kissimmee. This comes in from Russ. This might be coming in from the interstate. I will not be playing this video if it looks like the person is driving.
Unless they're in a parking lot.
Well, it could be a parking lot.
I-4
if
may
it's
be
at
a
the
parking
wheel,
lot.
I'm taking it down. Let's see.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Russ.
Could be passenger.
Just want to take a second
Is that passenger?
show you guys what I-4's looking like right now.
Ooh.
This
All that
has
traffic.
been like this the last 20 or 30 miles that I've been driving home. Just picking up some last-minute supplies, getting ready to go
let's
home and
be
get
honest,
the house
sometimes
prepared
I-4
for the
looks like that in
storm.
the sunshine.
Sending nothing but positive vibes, love to everybody. Everybody that's been affected, everybody that's going to be affected by this storm. Love y'all. Please be safe out there. Please.
All right. Thank you, Russ. So PSA time. It's time for JB's lecture
Here we go.
of the live stream. Do not drive and record video on your phone. Now, I couldn't tell if that was...
Well, he said he was driving home, so he had a bit. But
please don't do that, folks. That is just recipe for disaster. So let's not. Russ, I really do appreciate you sending that in, and Rebecca too. You're also noting that. Look, I mean, traffic on I-4, see it a lot.
Yeah, I-4 can do that for no good reason, much less for a good
Even
reason, like
middle of night.
evacuations. Yeah, but they have opened the shoulders, so you get an extra lane.
oh, have they? Okay.
Yeah, on 75 and on 4, they've opened the shoulders, so basically you can drive on the side of the road.
People are saying, hey, you know,
I'm surprised there's
could
no.
Could it have been a self-driving? Look, I don't even want to. Just do not.
Yeah,
use
it's not
your
a good
phone
idea.
At the wheel. That we have so many people on our roads right now. A lot of them know Florida roadways. A lot of them who have sent in. Look, there are people that have sent in videos to our stream that have admitted, I just moved here in the last few weeks or the last few months. We have people that don't know our roadways in Florida. People that are distracted. Emotions are high. Stress levels are high. Let's put the phones down, drive safely, and think about everybody else on the roadway, not just yourself. Russ, you might have been riding shotgun, Russ, but you just teed me up for a bit of a PSA. We're going to stop with the driving selfies.
Speaking of that, I wonder.
I just told my team no more driving videos and to report it.
Is there a way to show or find out like what gas stations still have gas? Is there any?
It's such a moving target because they're escorting the fuel trucks in with police cars in some cases to get through the traffic. And in the press conference, DeSantis was prioritizing getting those stations back up and running.
Yeah.
All right,
so temporarily run out of gas.
Let's try to get reported. Can we get back on track here? Maybe with these next 2 questions that we can get in, and let's go next to Lauren, who's in South Carolina.
Hey JB, hey Eric. My name is Lauren. I am from Florence, South Carolina. My question: I'm curious what you guys feel that Milton's going to do once it passes over Florida. I've seen some things and said it's going to turn back and go north with that warm water in the Atlantic. I was just curious your thoughts on what could happen with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely no Ian. It's not going to turn back into South Carolina or Georgia. This is going out to sea. It's basically getting dragged out by a frontal boundary, and it's going to join the front, so to speak. And those fronts are going well out into the Atlantic. So this is not going to break through the front and then move to the west. So you don't have anything to worry about.
And a lot of times the second big cold front of this month will shut down hurricane season for us completely. So this would be the first one. So
let's hope so. Yeah.
All right, and the last one that we have in the queue, this one comes in from B in Winter Haven. Let's go to B in Winter Haven.
Guys, I live in Winter Haven, and I noticed that the hurricane is gonna be weaker here than was previewed. Do I still need to put wood on my windows? My windows are not hurricane graded. Do I still need to put woods? Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
I mean, I would say, I think Winter Haven being, I really have to zoom in to hit where there it is. Okay, you got that. So you can see where the track is, right through Lake Wales. If this is a Category 2 and you're going to be in the northern eye wall and you're going to be getting pounded with rain and wind for a couple of, several hours, I would say it's a good idea if you don't have a hurricane-proof glass to board up your windows. If it's a modular home, it's probably not a good idea to stay at all, but definitely want to board up your windows.
Anything to add there, Rebecca, before we get back to some of the hashtag-based comments?
Also, I just think about how comfortable you're going to be. Like what's your comfort level with being in a storm like this? And sometimes that answers the question for people if they should stay or if they should go or not. Because how long do you want to live without power? How comfortable are you going to be during this? It's right in the middle of the night.
All right. You can send in, we're done with the video questions for now, but we'll get some ready. Send in your videos to WFLA.com/reportit. And we'll get to them later on in the live stream. We will get to more video questions at the end of the hour. Rebecca is getting back to her on-air responsibilities on WFLA News Channel 8. And that means it's back to you and I, Eric Stone.
All right.
Before we go back to hashtag-based questions and comments, can we just do a review of any new models that have come in? I can assure our audience that Wobble Tracker at this stage and where we are in the advisories, no wobbles off the track.
No, store's behaving right now. So if it does stay on track, I don't see this, I don't see the cone really shifting all that much more for 11 o'clock. But again, it's only not even 6:30 or pretty close to it.
Yeah.
New model data is not going to come in until at least 7:30, 8 o'clock. And the spaghetti plots will update around 9:15-ish, 9, 9:15, 9:30, usually around quarter after 9. So that's still a good 3 hours away. So we're not going to get any new model data. You know, the big news is really the model data that we already got, right? That showed all of those spaghetti plots moving off to the south. And now you see the cone has also shifted off to the south. And, you know, we pretty much called it first when we saw this very south movement on the Wobble tracker, well to the south and the east of the track. And I thought, well, the new models are going to initialize further to the south and east. So maybe the track will be further south and east. And yeah, that's what you see. That's what the track is, further south and east. So if I were to see the center of this still meandering off to the east, then I would say, uh-oh, here we go. It's going to keep on moving south. But for now, it's definitely corrected itself. And we'll see if this continues to follow that red line or the, NHC's track there. And if it does, there shouldn't be too much of a shift in the new models and the next cone, which again, the new models aren't going to come out for another couple of hours.
So nothing else to share with our audience from a model perspective at
Nothing
this time?
Nothing new, no.
10-4. All right, so back to the questions and comments that are coming in from WFLA.com, or excuse me, from WFLA's Facebook and YouTube live comment sections. Let's do it. Hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyEric. Let's get to your questions now that are coming in. And Samantha says, hashtag HeyJB with the Wobble. Will this be bad for Lakeland still? What do you got?
Yeah, it's looking like the center is going to move right through Bartow, and Lakeland is close enough to get hurricane force wind and 90-plus mile per hour wind gusts, all right? The further down south this goes, if it makes its way toward Wauchula, Frostproof, Fort Meade area, then we'll start to talk about maybe only hurricane force wind gust in the Lakeland area. But for now, I wouldn't be surprised if you still got Category 1 hurricane force wind in Lakeland and gusting over 90, maybe briefly to 100, but I would say more like 90, but a lot of rain. I mean, we're talking 12-plus inches of rain north of this system. So a lot of freshwater flooding is possible in Lakeland.
Okay. Next up, we've got Jessica saying, hashtag HeyEric. When a hurricane is strong, like it is now, does that make it more unstable and easier to wobble? It's a fascinating question.
I don't think so. I think when it's weaker and it's strengthening, like we saw with Helene, we saw that eye that we couldn't tell whether it was a real eye or if it was just dry air. Remember that? But when you see a strong storm like this, the eye is like I said, it's like a well-oiled machine. You see the convection just flaring from the center of this, and the eye is well-defined now that it's undergone that eye replacement. And so I wouldn't say it's easier to wobble. I think a weaker storm may be easier to wobble. This storm, I would say, would be easier to maybe go off track as it did because it's got its eye going in one direction, right? And it needs something really, really significant to steer this thing in a different direction because it's so strong. And maybe the jet JB was starting to steer it, but it was just too strong and it kind of pushed eastward over the past several hours before the jet was strong enough to really overtake it. And now you see it moving a little bit more northeast than it did earlier.
All right, next up. Fast car enjoyer. Okay, yeah, all right.
All right.
Hey, JB, is a Cat 3 at Landfall really bad? How does it compare to previous storms?
So,
it is a major hurricane.
Again, a Cat 3 that's weakening from a Cat 5 is a lot less dangerous than a Cat 2 or a Cat 1 that is strengthening into a Cat 3. When a storm weakens and then it makes landfall, it's already got that momentum to weaken, right? It's already starting to lose its steam. And then once it makes landfall, it loses its steam pretty quickly compared to Helene, which was a Cat 2, then a Cat 3, and then a Cat 4. And look how long Helene stayed over land as a Cat 3 and a Cat 2. Now, I'm not talking about the fact that it, affected southern Georgia as a Cat 2. That's because it was moving so fast. But if Helene was decreasing from a 5 to a 4 to a 3, it wouldn't have been as strong in southern Georgia. So, yes, a Cat 3 is a bad storm at landfall, but a weakening Cat 3 is a much better scenario than a strengthening Cat 3 right before landfall.
Welcome back in. WFLA's chief meteorologist, Jeff Baradelli. Jeff, any observations in the last half hour?
No, actually, no. I mean, I think we mentioned, I was saying before, Eric, the GFS, the Icon, and our in-house graph model all are right over Tampa Bay, despite the fact that a lot of those hurricane models have shifted south. So I just find it interesting, and it just leads me to the same conclusion, which is it's still too early to call.
Of course.
And by the way, we talked about the average track error at the National Hurricane Center at 24 to 36 hours is 50 miles. Well, 50 miles is the distance from Clearwater to Sarasota. Not to say that we think it's going to Clearwater, most likely not go in there, but it just goes to show you it still could shift. It could shift 50 miles further south, not out of the question. So, we're going to be. This is a nail biter, and we're going to be watching this up to the very moment that it makes landfall.
Fact or fiction? We have model consensus at this point.
No, we don't. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of. It seemed as though we were reaching more model consensus during the 12Z.
Yeah.
And then there seems to be a divergence a little bit at 18Z. Right. And who knows what the reason is. The models are so complicated. It could be that some of the models got some of the information from NOAA hurricane hunters and others didn't.
Right.
It could be that some of them
picked up the track that was further east.
Further south,
further south.
But others didn't. I mean, So we'll see what happens. We'll continue to just dig to find clues.
Right. I think it's pentagrams with this comment. It didn't show up in the queue. Hey, JB and Eric, I got family in Cape Coral. I was wondering if Milton was going to hit that area. Can't seem to find anything. Is there a possibility that Milton can shift its path over there? Can you bring up Cape Coral on the map there, Eric?
Yeah, so right here, so basically you have the Caloosahatchee River, and on one side is Fort Myers, and the other side is Cape Coral, and I can't believe...
That's the edge of the cone, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure what I said.
That's not the middle. That's not the middle of the cone. That's the edge of the cone.
That white line that
is the edge of the cone.
The edge of the cone.
Cape Coral is right in this area. Again, maybe if I come over here, you'll see it.
It's a very 3D model.
This is Pine Island over here, and so it's kind of right in the middle of this white, and you can see where my mouse is. Anyway, that's Cape Coral on the northern side of the Caloosahatchee, and there's definitely going to be storm surge.
Yeah.
There was a lot of storm surge in Cape Coral with Hurricane Ian via the Caloosahatchee, and even the southernmost end of Charlotte Harbor, really the northwestern portion of Cape Coral saw some flooding as well. So this could very well move a little bit further to the south. If it does, then boy, Cape Coral, you'd be looking at hurricane force wind and the possibility of gusts at least over 90. But for now, you'd be on the outer edge. So I would say at worst, you'd have hurricane force wind gusts maybe, and moderate to strong tropical storm force wind.
Can you bring up Bradenton on the map next?
Yep.
And Jeff, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, remember in Hurricane Ian, they weren't even in the cone in Naples, and they still ended up at 6 feet of surge. They weren't even in the cone. Yeah. So the impacts extend far outside the cone, is what I was going to say.
Yari G, hashtag AJB and Eric, how far inland can we expect storm surge for Bradenton? This was an area that we were really honed in on yesterday. What do you got, Eric?
I mean, I always say that, if you're a mile away, then you're okay. Most likely, if you're within a half a mile from the coast, I would say to evacuate. I know the Fort Myers Beach area, it made its way about a mile in.
Yeah.
But that was 18 foot of storm surge. And you know what? If this moves to the south, then the water's going to be pushed away from Bradenton. Right now, it's pretty much over SRQ, really, Sarasota Airport, which is pretty close to Bradenton, Manatee County. So, again, I'd say if you're a mile or more away from the Gulf, then you're not going to worry about storm surge.
With one exception, right? If you're near a river.
A river, right, exactly.
And there's the river's right there. So it depends on how close you are to the river.
Yeah.
Jeff, you like Mo Money?
Sure. Does it bring more problems?
It does.
You're right on it. Mo Money. I lived on Davis Islands, but I'm now displaced and staying with family in San Antonio, Florida. Question, what time will Pasco County start feeling tropical storm conditions. I know Eric's moving up to
I think it's
Pasco now.
mid-afternoon, right, Eric?
Mid to late. Isn't San Antonio like
San
kind of
Antonio is
east?
right near Dade City, right near St. Leo, that area.
Yeah,
It'll come up eventually.
Yeah, you just have to.
We have a graphic that shows the beginning of, I don't know if it's loaded in there, but the graphic that shows the beginning of tropical storm force winds, although it's not on this source. It's on.
No. Yeah, right. And it was along the immediate coast. It was like 2:00.
Was it 2? Okay.
Yeah, but
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So
it's probably like 6 or
right.
something
But
like that.
as these models have kind of pushed landfall later and later, I wouldn't be surprised if the coast didn't really see that until maybe 4. And then a little bit further inland around 7 or so. But either way,
So
sometime
when it starts to get dark.
Yeah, late afternoon into the evening, definitely.
David Alonzo, #Hey Eric, do you see Milton dropping below 900 millibars again?
I'm looking to see.
It could. I guess we'll see the 8 o'clock update. You said the Hurricane Hunters were at 902?
I'm looking to see if there's anything anything new here. Hold on. Let me see what they'll do.
Now that it's being influenced a little bit by the jet starting to pull this to the north, if I had to bet, I'd probably say no. But I wouldn't be surprised if the wind did catch up because you saw, Jeff, the pressure went down. The pressure went down 13 millibars, but the wind speed is still the same.
Yeah.
So the wind hasn't caught up yet.
Oh, see, the latest vortex message just came out, 904 millibars, although there was a sound that a drop sound that was 902.
Okay.
So it would be, I mean, if it's 902, I guess it could briefly get to 899. We'll see. It'll be close.
Yeah, but I mean, now that it's starting to get influenced with the jet pulling this, it's not going to strengthen much longer. Maybe at 8 o'clock, it'll catch up with the pressure. And then after that, I think it'll hold steady and then slowly start to decrease.
Yep, and it is starting to take more of that turn there.
Yeah.
Sharon wants to know, hashtags all around, is Hudson out of the woods?
Well, no, you're not out of the woods. You're not even close to being out of the woods. You're north, so you're not going to deal with storm surge, but 12 inches of rain or so being on the north side of the storm and maybe the possibility of hurricane force wind gust anyway, not sustained necessarily. Did you notice the radii graphic that we have? Tampa is barely in the hurricane force wind now with this track.
This new track.
Yeah,
you mean
it's barely in the hurricane.
you're talking about the National
circling.
Hurricane Center.
Right.
Yeah, rather than our model. Which,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying gust. I'm saying sustained.
Right. So that red. Do we have that? Do we have the ability to look at that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got both. I've got both computers going.
Yeah,
so.
I think it would be good to show everybody that. So when you look at the wind radii that Eric's about to pull up, it's going to show a red, blob. That's going to move right across Tampa Bay
This
and
is source
south towards
120,
Sarasota.
JB.
I'm sorry?
Source 120.
Got it.
Yep.
And you're going to notice the red blob is going to kind of make its way right through. So now it's right from Tampa. So that's sustained 75 plus mile an hour
and
winds.
it's barely, it's barely here in Tampa. So if this moves any further south, we may not even see sustained hurricane force wind. Obviously, we'll see gust over 90 at least, maybe even 100. But
that's right. Yeah, and that's important to mention. Whoever ends up right near the center there is going to see those winds probably gusting at least to 110, I would say.
Right. So when you look at Hudson, you're looking at least 60, 65 or so miles an hour.
Brooke wants to know, hey, JB, Grand Island, Florida, what are we looking at for rain and winds? Please, can't get any coverage. I was unfamiliar with Grand
right
Island,
now.
Florida.
Isn't that on the East Coast?
No, it is on the north side of Lake Eustis.
I see it.
And really northwest of Orlando.
Lots of heavy rain.
Like Claremont area?
It's south of Ocala. It's just north of Apopka. So it is north of Claremont. It's it's probably about, 10
near
miles
Leesburg?
or so.
Probably why she's had difficulty
yeah.
finding coverage. It's hard to find on a map.
Exactly. Well, here's Eustis.
Oh, you're looking at you're not showing anybody that.
I'm sorry. Which?
No.
I'm looking myself on Weather 4. I'm just looking to see where.
Oh, there we go.
So there's Eustis,
and then Grand Island's right there between Lake Eustis and Lake Yale. So right, basically the fort in Fort Mason.
Okay, so it's right near there. Yeah, it may not show up.
Yeah, it's
but
there it is.
Oh, there it is, Grand Island.
Wow, we found it.
That's a nice area. It looks surrounded by lakes.
Brooke.
I'd be worried about
because of the rainfall.
Yeah. you're going to be in that northern portion of the storm that, the models seem to be saying is going to generate 12 to 18 inches of rain, maybe a little less as we go inland. But
yeah.
So I'd be concerned about that, and obviously some gust to about hurricane force.
With #Hey Eric and JB, what would be the wind gust for Lake Wales, and what category storm is expected there, you guys?
Yeah, so this looks like it's going to go pretty much right, like the center is going right over Lake Wales. So
yeah, as a cat 2,
right? Yeah. So I'd say a good 85, 90 miles an hour sustained, and then gusting 105-ish, maybe 110.
I mean, there's going to be what? I'm just going to say is 3 million people in the Bay Area, and then add Orlando, and then add areas north and south. There's going to be like 10 million people without power in the state. I mean, maybe I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think it's probably going to be more than that.
I think it's at least that.
It's going to take so long to get some people's power back. Some of us will have power back in a day or two.
Yeah.
If we're lucky, and then others might not get it back for a week and a half. Luckily it's going to be cooler after the storm passes. I do worry about August storms and the elderly people who really need, a lot of people who need air conditioning.
Right.
We see so many of those post-storm fatalities. Oftentimes it's more than in the storm itself.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We have apparently a growing fan base for the WFLA in-house model.
Can you bring the graph
up? Says, I prefer your model. That's the graph, by the way. I prefer your model over the others, says Anthony. What is your model predicting? What source, Eric, do you want?
120.
Got it.
Our model is just north of the National Hurricane Center track, but it's consistent with its earlier run. The earlier run had it exactly there. In fact, if you were watching before, it was almost funny because myself and Eric and JB, we were like, that looks the same as it did this morning. That can't be the new run. It's the new run. It's just the same place. So you can see that the eye goes right over Tampa Bay. Now, again, this may correct when it gets new information at 0Z. So we may see it. We may see new information this evening. What should be like 10:30-ish, something like that.
This updates every 3 hours, right? I believe there's 21Z.
I don't. Yeah, maybe.
I think so.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But the
0Z
is really what I'm waiting for, because that's
10:30. Yeah. And the model plots, the spaghetti plots themselves, is about 9:15, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Is when they update. Yeah,
that sounds right.
All right. Next up, let's go to your video questions that are coming in to WFLA.com/report it. You can send in your selfie video questions and a tip if you can show us where you're watching from and point to your location and talk about your surroundings. That helps us understand and better answer your question. Next up in the queue is Ian. Let's go to not Hurricane Ian. No, the person Ian joining us here next.
So the 5 o'clock track has Milton going south, a little bit further south than was originally thought. My question is, around the Bradenton, Palmasola Bay area, how severe would the damage be from a direct hit versus the damage from potential storm surge if the track shifted back north? Also, you wouldn't hire Superman to fix this, you'd hire Storm.
Very good.
Wait,
X-Men.
Yeah, there was a question earlier, could you put a nuclear bomb in? And you'll appreciate it. And I said, well, you remember Superman 3 when the earthquake happened and Lois Lane was in the ditch and she was dying? And
did it change the course of history or something?
No. But
remember
when Superman spun around the earth to go backward? And I said, well, that's what you do to a hurricane. Have Superman spin around the hurricane, so now it's going clockwise like the earth was. Yeah.
But anyway. People always do ask those questions, and the thing is every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
So if you somehow could steer the storm in a different direction, it's heading towards somebody else.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
So the question was Bradenton, right? And in the case of Bradenton, if the storm were to make a direct hit on you and you didn't get the surge because you were, like, say, on the northern side of it, then you would see a lot less damage from surge, assuming you're near the water. But you'd be hit head on by the storm. But the truth is, the strongest winds are really at the center of the storm and south of the storm. So either way, you're seeing the same winds. I don't think the winds change very much from a storm that moves over Tampa Bay and you're on the south end of the eye wall, or the storm hits you directly on. I don't think there's much of a difference in winds. So really, you'd almost rather be hit almost directly head on than it be north of you, because then you don't have to deal with the surge.
Yeah, and I mean, in this case, it looks like that 125 plus stays on the west side of the storm. I'm assuming because it's over the open water.
Oh yeah, the gust,
the
the blue,
gust,
the blue
yeah, the
gust.
blue.
You know what, JB? Can you take that full for a second so people can see?
Absolutely.
I think it's hard for people to see. So yes, that's exactly what happens. Friction reduces as soon as the storm hits land. Friction reduces the winds by about 20 or more %, even more than that actually.
Yeah.
So that's what you're seeing. You're just seeing that friction has reduced the gust. But yes, west of Clearwater. And by the way, I put the city of Clearwater over the water. That was my fault. You see the
I know
that was me. I gotta correct it and put Clearwater back over Clearwater. Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to put you in the Gulf of Mexico. But you're right, Eric. There are some wind gusts over the water that are 125, but once they hit land, they are reduced by about 20%. And so that's why we're only registering 100, 110 mile an hour wind gusts.
Yeah.
Next up on WFLA.com.
Thank you for fixing Clearwater.
Clearwater is now not underwater.
All right, you're on the coast again, you guys. Next up on WFLA.com/report it is Natalia.
Hi guys, thank you for everything you do. I have a quick question. I relocated. My home is north of Clearwater, the coast of Newport Richey, and I'm 3 miles inward. On evacuation D, a little uphill, but still very close to the storm. My question is, how far inland can water storm surge travel with that incoming winds and that monster coming in? And how far inland can that water go? Thank you.
It's an easier question for Newport Richey than it is for, let's say, Sarasota. Right,
Right, exactly.
Because we don't think that you're going to get storm surge in Newport Richey. So that's the simpler answer. But still, 3 miles is really far. I don't know that this storm's going to be pushing water 3 miles inland unless you're near a river, and then it pushes all the way in.
All right, next up in the queue. Thank you, Natalia, for the question. Charles in Lakeland. Let's go to Charles up next.
Hey guys, thanks for all the work that you're doing. I have a question for you. I live in Lakeland. Most people in Central Florida probably asking this. How long is the worst of it going to last? I've heard anything that this, can move pretty quickly, so it'll be basically 4 hours. I've seen 2 hours. I've seen 6 hours. And I know that the storm's kind of a duration of a day, but how long is like the absolute worst of it going to happen before we start seeing a lessening of the wind, provided you're not on the eye wall?
So real quick, I just want to compliment Charles, because that is a question that we haven't really. That's a great question.
Yeah.
That we kind of have breezed over, pun not intended. Is how long, when people are in the thick of it, you guys, how long?
Yeah, we had one question, and I think I said about 6 hours. But since I have this map up, let's take a look. So this is our in-house model. So 1 o'clock in the morning, according to this model, we're in hurricane force wind gusts. And I do expect in Lakeland, and I do expect that to be the beginning of the worst, right? And now we're at 4. Now it's in the eye, 5, 6. So there's 5 hours later, and we're finally, are we getting out? So
it's like 4 to 5 hours.
4 to 5 hours within the hurricane force wind gust in Lakeland.
But along the coast, it's probably just a little bit longer because the winds are stronger. So probably 6 hours for the coast and 4
on
hours
our coast,
further inland.
Yeah.
All right. Next up in the queue is we have. I think it's Junior. Is it Junior from
Sopranos?
Is it? Man, look at you.
He's not around anymore, is he?
No, I don't think so. Junior from Jacksonville, you are up next on Report It.
I have 2 questions. I have a RV that's parked at Flagler Beach that I have enclosed, and I am now presently in Jacksonville on Port 32 up to St. John's near Otega River. And I chose the Otega River and Jacksonville because obviously it's a little further north. But how secure and what do we expect for Flagler Beach as far as flooding? And like I said, it's right off of I-95. And what am I expecting in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I wish we had this time when I wish Rebecca was here, because Rebecca worked at Jacksonville for like 15 years.
I mean, there's going to be some storm surge at the beach up there.
I know, but it's just so tough to know. We're not experts on. You know what I can do? Let me look at the National Hurricane Center and see what they're saying, because I'm not
here's
an
the
expert on
radii I mean, you're probably looking at 40 to 50 mile per hour wind at most, gusting maybe here and there to 60.
And the forecast, by the way, for surge, Eric, and I'm looking at it right now.
Is it 3 to 5 or
it's
2
3
to
to 5?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the model, not the forecast.
Right.
But it looks to be 3 to 5.
And I mean, Jacksonville's further to the north. It's further away from the center. I mean, I would almost argue, maybe a little bit less than that, 2 to 4. But he says his RV is directly on the beach. So 2 to 4 foot storm surge, depending on how close to that beach you are. That may be a problem. But the wind, I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. 40, 50 miles an hour at most. And that again, is if it holds the track and intensity that it's at right now.
All right. We've got a few more coming in, you guys. And we're approaching the top of the hour where we will be setting up Jeff's 8:30 stream, provided that's still happening.
I mean, at 8:30, 8:45 or so.
Okay.
Does that work? Yeah. Yep. You want to be exactly 8:30? That's fine.
I just want to be able to tell our audience what to expect.
Rebecca and I are both going to be a part of that, and I think 8:30 will be fine. We're not going anywhere, so 8:30.
So Jeff does a solo Max Fender 8 stream, or in this case with
I'll
Rebecca,
have Rebecca too.
In the 8:30 half hour. So closer to 8:45 is what you're saying. Just to let people know.
Yeah, actually, it may be. Well, we finished at 7:30. Yeah, it's probably going to be 8:45.
Okay.
Just because we need time to actually eat dinner and
eat dinner.
Can you believe it?
No.
We're going to do. I didn't really even eat lunch today, so
there's
and by
pizza
the way,
there.
a little bit more, a little bit more inside baseball. I have to get downstairs to do the 7 o'clock show.
All right, Jeff Gardell. You'll see him tonight at 8:45 ish.
Yep.
And thanks, Jeff, for
thank you.
And we'll
joining
discuss
us
tomorrow. How we're going to do things. Yeah.
All right, you guys, back to a few more as we get to the top of the hour, and then we'll be taking a dinner break and getting things ready for Jeff's 8:45 stream. In the meantime, let's get back to WFLA.com/report it. Next up in the queue, we have this is Jonathan. Let's go to Jonathan here on WFLA.com/report it.
Hey guys, just wondering if I know it was forecast at 10 to 15 feet in South Tampa. I'm wondering if that's still the case, or how bad it's forecasted to be.
So that's the storm surge he's talking about. And given the track right now, there wouldn't be really a storm surge in Tampa Bay because the wind would be coming from the northeast, right? And so you'd be able to actually walk in parts of Tampa Bay, or at least, the Hillsborough River or whatnot, because it would be completely dry. The water would be blown out into the Gulf of Mexico. So right now, given this track, we're not expecting any storm surge. But again, as Jeff said, looking at the Wobble tracker, it almost looks like the last couple frames there, the center is still just a tad bit right there. See it, JB? The center is still right there, a tad bit to the right of that line.
I mean, we're splitting hairs there.
Right.
No?
But,
I mean, what do you think?
But we're looking at the center line, and then, and again, I didn't think it would take a complete northeasterly turn yet. I figured it would gradually go that way. But boy, that eye sure looks impressive there. But yes, it might.
It is a well-defined eye at the end of this run. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look, yeah.
But you can tell it is off center. It is off center by just a little bit. But again, it's still early to tell. But if it does continue, and we'll see more of this 8, 9, 10 o'clock to see if this completely goes off the track, because you see what a latitude longitude line is. It's headed right for it. That is off the track. So we will see if this does, continue to go slightly east and south of the track.
All right, Jonathan, thank you for yours. Next up in the queue is Tristan in Largo. Let's go to Tristan up in Largo.
Hey, JB. Hey, Eric. This is Tristan in Largo. I'm just curious what you guys think tomorrow will be looking like in Largo around 4 p.m. because that's normally the time I would be picking up my daughter from her mother. And I'm hoping to get her to a non-evacuation zone where I'll be staying with boarded windows in a sturdy house. She's currently in an evacuation D zone, which isn't a mandatory evacuation area. But it does get some flooding with the rain, especially around Belcher area and Ulmerton, that part of Largo. Just wondering if you think it's worth it to make the drive around 4 p.m. tomorrow, or for her to stay put where she is.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, that's
Appreciate
kind of, it's kind of pushing it. I have the wind gusts at 4 o'clock, and of course, Clearwater would probably be the best, to look at in regards to being close to Largo. You're looking at 35-mile-an-hour gusts, so it's going to start getting bad mid to late afternoon. But with that short of a drive, and 18 plus inches of rain, JB, that's a lot of rain. There's going to be a lot, even though we don't have the surge, there's going to be a lot of freshwater flooding because of this. And remember, all weekend and all week, we've been talking about, we're either going to get a lot of storm surge or we're going to get a lot of rain. And I'd always said, to me, the rain is better than the storm surge because, 15 foot of surge is going to directly impact, I would say, at least 1 million people around the bay. Now, the rain is going to impact a lot of people too. But I don't think we'll see the mass devastation as 15 foot of water being blown all around Tampa Bay. So keep in mind, if you are in a zone where flooding occurs, chances are it is going to flood. And if you have cars and vehicles, your car, unfortunately, JB, there's going to be a lot of cars that are totaled and flooded out. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. And people aren't going to even maybe think about that. They're going to think about, saving themselves, which is number one. You want to save yourself first, and then you want to try to save your property second. But if you are in a flood zone and you can get out of there, I would definitely do so because you don't want to lose your car, and a lot of people are going to.
We lost count of how many cars were thoroughly, just watered out and decimated.
And there was no rain there
during Helene.
That wasn't even rain. That was only
surge.
Only storm surge. Storm surge only. If the bay had beach all around it, JB, all that sand, imagine, would be around homes, all around Bayshore, all around everywhere. Pinellas County, Manatee County. Imagine if the bay had beach sand all around it, 100% of the way around. It would look just like Clearwater Beach, St. Pete Beach, Paso Grill, and places like that. Yeah, just crazy to think about.
As we look here at the graph model, we'll really focus on this tomorrow, as will Wobble Tracker. We have a few more in the queue, and then we're going to be wrapping up the live stream. It's up to our audience if we want to end our live stream with a selfie segment. I'm going to just put in a quick poll. Sometimes the selfie segment makes people smile. Other times, we can just, do it maybe once a day and not multiple times a day. So let's just do selfie segment to end the stream, to end the show, or to end the hour. Let's see. Yes or no? We'll just quickly see what people are saying. Because we did, I think, one of those already today. So
yeah,
sometimes it brings people joy to see people smiling out there and show different, how people are following, tracking the tropics. Some people are on the road. Some people are in the living room. Some people are watching from out of state or out of country. We'll keep that poll up here for a little bit longer. Next up in the queue, after we had Tristan, is Brian from Bartow. Let's go to Brian next up from Bartow.
Yeah, if the storm were to
Hey Eric, hey
direct hit on
JB.
you and you didn't get the
How
surge
long
'cause you were,
will
like,
we
say, on the
experience
northern
the
side,
eye in
then you
Bartow?
would see a lot.
Oh,
Yeah,
good question.
interesting.
Yep, right to the point.
So, yeah, I would say, Bartow, well, of course, this model is a little bit north of the track, but I would say maybe 30 minutes or so at most. Again, it really depends on how big the eye obviously shrinks when it makes its way on land. So You know, Lakeland, right about there, it starts to get in the eye at 4 o'clock, and it's pretty much out at 5. So maybe 30, 40 minutes, if that, depending on how fast it moves. I'd say 30.
Yeah, you can. I mean, Bartow's right there represented on this map. So
yeah, and
helpful.
the tracks actually go right through the NHC track. Again, this is our in-house model, which takes the storm a little bit further north toward Lakeland. The NHC track is right over Bartow. But I really think that these other models, JB, are going to correct itself based on the movement to the south and east of the track earlier today. I think they just have to initialize in the right place, and these models are going to correct.
All right, next up in the queue, Hari, I believe is the correct pronunciation. Let's go to her next.
Hi, I was just wondering how much rainfall and damages we can expect in New Tampa. We get so much about the Tampa Bay area. I just want to know about New Tampa because it looks like it's going right through there, specifically Wesley Chapel and Land O'Lakes area. Also, I want to know how much effect that the clear water, like near the St. Petersburg airport, is also getting as well. Thank you. Hi, I was just wondering.
Okay, so
appreciate it.
I think she means, and I brought up the graphic of rain. She spoke about New Tampa, which is very close to Wesley Chapel, so to speak. It's further north of the bay. And, we're looking at 12 to 18 inches of rain with a given track. As far as PIE is the Clearwater, St. Pete Clearwater Airport is what she's talking about. There's going to be a lot of rain there. And I believe the airport is pretty close to the eastern side of the bay, right? PIE, I believe, is, the water of the bay is to the east. So I wonder if some of that, there'll be some sort of surge, so to speak, from the northern bay water kind of being blown into the eastern portion of Pinellas County. So I don't know if she has a flight Friday. It may not happen. There may be a lot of water and a lot of debris out there. So there's definitely going to be a lot of standing water after this thing goes through.
All right. And we're going to wrap up the video segment. But really quickly, it's really important for me to note that this tool, we're using it for video questions today, but this is how we collect our weather reports, our damage reports from around the Tampa Bay area and beyond when we cover a storm with this much focus. So on Thursday and into Friday and into Saturday, as you have weather photos and videos, damage reports to share via photos and videos, please send it in to WFLA.com/report it. Be as specific as possible. Tell us where the video is coming from. Give us a timestamp and let us know where the damage is coming from, or the flooding, or the down power line, the road closure, whatever it may be, something that you want to share. But again, massive PSA, please do so safely and responsibly. No piece of content is worth your safety or your family's safety. If you're going to shoot video and send it into the news, or if you just have video, just please be safe out there, folks. That's the number one thing. But we will be sharing a lot of your weather photos, videos, damage reports, photos and videos over the course of the week as we get more into landfall coverage and really damage coverage here in the state of Florida. All right, so one more in the queue, and it's a cute one. So we'll end out here on this, and we are going to St. Petersburg for this.
Hi, my name is Augie. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida. If the hurricane doesn't hit us, are we still in danger? How far south does it have to go till we're safe?
How far?
How cute.
It's great. Beautiful dog. Cute dog.
I didn't even see his lips move. Must be ventriloquist.
Wow. Yeah, extremely impressive. I just love the final frame here. Just kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, to the question, how far south does this have to go for St. Pete to feel a whole lot better about their situation?
I mean, I hate to say it, but this would have to go down to Fort Myers if you want to talk about St. Pete getting out of the severe 60-plus mile-an-hour wind. That's not going to happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. But as far as it goes, as far as rain goes, there's a lot of rain on the way to Pinellas County, a good 12-plus inches of rain. And, the eastern shores of Pinellas will still get some water kind of blown into, right? But for the most part, you're not going to deal with bad storm surge with the given track right now, which is well off to the south. But, as far as hurricane force wind go, if the storm moves another 30 or so miles to the south, you definitely won't have that 75 mile per hour sustained hurricane force wind. But you would have wind gust over 80 miles an hour. It would have to move probably 75 or so miles further to the south for things to be a lot less hectic for your neighborhood. But again, the wind field is so broad, and so is the rain. I mean, you got the northern end of the storm is going to pack a punch in regards to rain. So if this moves 75 to 100 miles to the south, which I really doubt it's going to, that's about where it would have to go to where you wouldn't get real significant bad impacts.
All right. That brings us to the end of this session here from the Stream Center. I'd like to thank our audience who sent in video questions with WFLA.com/reportit. Eric, a final assessment of our situation, plus a look at the Wobble tracker. Just kind of take us through key observations as we wrap things up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously meandering a little bit to the east of the given track, just a little bit. But and that's not a wobble. That's a steady motion. You can see it. So again, if this does equate to a more southerly movement in the actual track, that is, we have to wait to see. That would happen at 11 o'clock this evening. I don't see a major shift coming, JB, but because obviously between 11 this morning and 5 this afternoon, the eye of this was clearly well off the line. The whole thing was off the line. Now, the center is close, right? It's close, 2 hours in since 5 o'clock. So we will see. I do think that the 8 o'clock update, JB, will feature a stronger wind. I bet this will get back up to maybe 175 because of the pressure drop down to 905. So we will see, but eventually this is going to level out, and it is going to start to weaken because of the interaction with the jet. And once that begins to happen, which I think will happen overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning, then we're going to see this thing start to weaken, and then weaken a lot more rapidly as it makes its way to the coast. But again, my forecast initially was central Sarasota County, and it is getting closer. It is right now SRQ, right by the airport, northern Sarasota, close to Sarasota, Manatee County. That's where the center line is. We will see if there's any shifts to the north or to the south. But again, given the Wobble tracker, maybe moving slightly to the east of this track, if there is any shift in the 11 o'clock cone, I think it would move southward. But again, we'll see where the 0Z models come in. That'll be about 9:15. And once they come in, then I think we'll get a good idea of where, the cone may shift if it does.
Meteorologist Eric Stone joining us. Folks, don't go anywhere, because if you're joining us on YouTube Live, WFLA.com, the WFLA app, or trackingthetropics.tv, Chief Meteorologist Jeff Berardelli will be streaming at approximately 8:45 Eastern tonight. The only place where we'll be restarting the stream is Facebook Live. It's just a little bit different on Facebook because we relaunch the post when we have a new stream session to bring you. And so Facebook Live will be ending. All other platforms will be staying live, so you can monitor the Milton Forecast HQ. Let's show the Milton Forecast HQ. Again, you can send in your video questions to WFLA.com/reportit. We also have the real-time Wobble tracker streaming all the time on WFLA.com. And, of course, the latest statistics with the latest forecast cone from the NHC on Category 5, Hurricane Milton. We are a little bit more than an hour and a half away from Jeff Berardelli and Rebecca Barry doing a stream right here on this live stream. For those joining us on Facebook Live, you will see a new live stream start at approximately 8:45 Eastern. For meteorologist Eric Stone, I'm JB Biunno. Tomorrow is an enormous day for Florida and for Hurricane Milton. We will, of course, be monitoring the progress all day long tomorrow from the Stream Center as we prepare for landfall coverage in the overnight hours into Thursday, October 10th, 2024. Thank you so much for joining us. For everybody who commented along, sent in video questions to WFLA.com/reported, and a special thank you to our moderators. Be safe out there, folks. Of course, we'll keep it posted on everything Hurricane Milton related tomorrow, and be sure to look out for Jeff Baradelli's Max Defender 8 live stream with special guest Rebecca Barry at 8:45 Eastern. Good night, folks.